I do miss the days of Fred's old cheesy intros. We're back for another week of No Man's Land tennis. I'm off a depression streak after the Ryder Cup loss. I can't play tennis. It looks like Cole is actually out there hitting some balls. Cole, is the rumors true?
It's true. I know you can't play, so I got to get in shape. Easy pickings right now. Kick 'em lies down.
And he's gonna get a taste of that forehand.
Not just the forehand. I mean, serve, pop it in, wide serve, slice the butter knife. I mean, come on.
Oh my
Man.
God. Cole's hit with a ball machine once in the past 4 months, and he's Roger Federer now, everybody.
Once you have it, it never leaves you.
Does it take long for a Bentley to warm up, baby? No, we got a week for you here over here at No Man's Land Tennis. We have a lot to catch up on. One, we've had a couple tournaments going on in China right now. We had the wrap up Zhuhai Chengdu, which ended on a Wednesday. We have to go over Beijing, which is currently going to finish up in a couple days, which looks like a really, really good final there. We're going to talk about Osaka coming back, looking like it's coming for real, and kind of the depressing state that left some players on the WTA. And we're going to talk about some balls. We're going to get in some ball talk and some injury talk. But let's start off with the wrap up. Like I said, Zhuhai and Chengdu just finished up last week. Obviously, after we shot the last podcast, Hashinoff winning in Zhuhai. He beat Nishioka over there. Pretty routinely straightforward match. And Zverev winning in Chengdu, beating the Roman Empire, Roman Saflin. Not a lot to really report there, guys. It's hard to watch these matches, really.
Yeah, I prefer my sleep. I love tennis. Sorry I missed it, but it is 1, 2, 3 a.m. when these matches are hitting like peak afternoons there. But I guess I will say this is a pretty storied run of the calendar. Like they've had a lot of history in China, and we have Shanghai and Beijing and Tokyo, and they had a lot of really good tournaments and history there in the past year. So it's good to see it back.
Yeah, Hachinov, I don't think we did it enough justice, but it's his first title in almost 5 years.
Is it that long?
Can you believe that?
God, I remember when I was teaching tennis, the guys I worked with when he played Djokovic really tough at the Aussie Open in 2018, 2019. He was like, yeah, Hashinoff is going to be the next great player. He thought he was going to be the next great Russian player. But 5 years since the title, you're right. We are not doing that enough justice.
Yep. No, and he's been playing great tennis in the last couple of years. Like he really has. And so the fact that he has been titleless for that long. God.
It's also just like the sneaky third Russian. Like it's Medvedev and Rublev, and then it's like, what's your name? But like, and like, yeah, he hasn't won a title in 5 years, but his game hasn't changed at all in 5 years. His forehand still looks exactly the same, and his backhand still looks exactly the same.
Okay, well, can you find me any other pro that's changed their technique, like in pros? I don't know.
Yeah, but like
very few.
His
I'll
detriment.
Freddie boy.
I mean, we don't want to get into this like Hachinov podcast, but like his forehand is a liability just based on how it looks. Like the same thing with like my favorite player of all time, Benoit Paire. Like it just looks weird.
That's much better than Benoit's forehand. And like you said, we're not gonna get too much into Hashinoff. But there have been players that have made change. Djokovic's serve has changed dramatically from when he started. Federer's forehand changed and backhand changed from when he started, and so did Nadal's serve. So these guys can make changes, which is why sometimes when I watch my favorite tour players and they don't make changes, it drives me up a wall a little bit. But we'll move on. We have currently going on right now, we have Astana and Venice. It's in the Kazakhstan. Yes. You gotta do the Borat for that. Come on now. Just watch an interview with Sacha Baron Cohen. But yeah, you got to, this is my house. Entry, please. And that's what Korda said. We have a Korda and a Manarino final. So that should be fun. Good to see Korda playing some good ball, because I picked him to do some great things this year and he has not lived up to that. So fun to see him making a comeback a little bit.
Yeah, Kazakh Korda. I mean, I think they should start giving out keys to like the city at these lower level tournaments just to get like more put on the map. Like Korda, just Just give him the key to the city when he beats Manarino tomorrow. We'll get the whole Korda family over there. Little golf tournament, little hit and giggle. I mean, put it on the map. Next thing you know, Astana is going to be like a 1,000, and people will start waking up for it.
Manarino is going to get up for this one. He doesn't like America or
He does not.
Americans.
No, he does not.
So this will be a fun one to watch. So hopefully Korda, I mean, Korda has made the final in 3 of his last 4 events.
It's a good sign.
Another sneaky good stat.
It is. Fred, this is I'm loving where you're pulling this out of, baby. I mean, we'll see. But we'll have to watch that. I guess watch the highlights because, again, it's 2:00 in the morning. We're not watching it. In Beijing, we do have an unbelievable semifinals going on over there at the WTA the ATP 500 going on over there. It looks like Zverev Medvedev and an Alcaraz Sinner. Which, how is it that every tournament we're getting in like an Alcaraz Sinner type of match going on? It feels like whenever those two are together. So that's a sick semifinal draw over there.
Yeah, definitely super cool. I saw Sinner's head absolutely buried in a trash can when I woke up this morning, but 6-2 in the third. Grigor's full of plans, that one. He's got so many plans to beat the top players, but I guess Sinner foiled that plan again.
Yeah, that's how I felt after watching your backhands in those videos that you posted of head in the trash can, baby. Head in the trash can.
It's an unwarranted stray.
Yeah, no, Beijing's been cool. I've watched 1 or 2 matches, and then just like you said, Keith, it's tough to watch and keep up with. So it's been highlight central over here in DC. But also another kind of interesting thing is Beijing's a 500 on the men's side, arguably the best 500 draw we've seen this year on the men's side. Almost one of the better draws we've seen in general, even 1,000. But on the women's side, Beijing is a WTA 1,000 event, and I don't know, they're not running at the same time. Like the men are in the semis and the women are in the round of 32.
Right.
And so they've kind of staggered it. So it's interesting. I don't know, being a fan at that tournament, you're not watching. Typically when, like in DC, we've got the 2 500s, they're playing on the same cadence. So you've got these events going pretty much simultaneously. And now here in Beijing, they're 2 or 3 days off, which just seems off.
Saturdays and Sundays are for the girls this week, Fred. And we've got 4 big hitters. I mean, you got the big 3. And then you've got your honorable mentions. Coco Gauff, is she big 4? Who knows? Pegula, is she big 4, Fred? She's trending that way. So it's the season-long debate. But yeah, it's cool. I think it's cool. Give them a Sunday final. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just because they're doing that kind of whacked out schedule where they're trying to get Shanghai, which we'll touch on later, obviously, is a 96 draw 10-day Masters 1000. So they have to end Beijing on the men's side on a Wednesday so they can start the men's side in Shanghai. And it's very weird. It makes the viewing audience kind of tough. I do kind of feel bad for the Asian audience that only has like a very finite time to watch tennis, because we're complaining about not being able to see it over there. They can't see tennis for half the year, if not more. And then they got to end it on Wednesday. Can't miss work to go see a final. It's just weird.
Yeah, definitely feels like there's a lot going on. They've got the Asian games going on. They've got the men and women playing in like half weeks or like midweek finals. It's and it's already hard to watch. So it definitely does make it a little bit harder to follow. Oh well, but we'll soldier on. It's almost Masters 1000 week.
Yeah, no, it is. Speaking of the Asian games there, Cole, kind of some heartbreaking news for some players in the Asian games and some good news for the rest of the tennis world, to be kind of honest with you. Qinwen Zheng, who's China's #1 player in the world, just won the Asian games, which is an incredible honor to do. It's the first time, I believe, they've been able to have professionals compete in the Asian games. But she just split with her coach, Wim Fissette, who was Osaka's old coach. And it was not an amicable split, to be honest with you. It's been reported a little bit throughout the tennis world, which was Wim pretty much went against his contractual obligations. They'd only been working together since right around Wimbledon. Leaves Qinwen Zheng to go essentially back to coach Osaka. And Qinwen Zheng was upset, was in tears about it. And what her negative is kind of an odd way to say that Osaka is back in and looks like she is serious about trying to make a comeback this upcoming year in what is like only about 4 months.
Yeah, I got two things on this. First thing is like, congrats to Wim. He got the bag. Osaka's back, and he's gonna get absolutely paid. This is a business, and you just can't, like, people are gonna make business decisions for them, right? Like, that is how I feel about this. And for Zheng, like, she's good enough. Like, she's so good, and she's 20 in the world. Like, yes, he's a great coach. They've only been working together for a short amount of time, but like, it's your ability. Like, you have the game, trust it, and you'll be fine. But wish it was a little bit more amicable. Hate seeing people getting slaughtered on Twitter.
I mean, if you're Zhang, you got to feel completely shorted here. She won her first title a couple months after working with Wim Fissette. I think she won Palermo. And then she makes a quarterfinal run in the US Open. So she's playing her best tennis and is looking like kind of that next, like, you know, very good player, especially the next great Chinese player and that kind of stuff that we have going on. And wham, the person that she's entrusting her tennis life to leaves for the hotter player, for the player that's got the more that has more to their game. So it does kind of hurt a little bit. I think it's a confidence blow, at least for her.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there had to have been a better way to deal with it. You would have thought that coach, I don't think it was a secret to anybody that Osaka was probably going to be playing tennis again at some point. And we don't know, but you would hope that there was some sort of conversation there where he talked with Qinwen Zheng and sort of said, like, hey, this is kind of temporary. And the way she's reacting, apparently that conversation wasn't had. And this was very unexpected, and contractual obligations were basically dismissed. So that's, I don't know. I really don't know. But I think
the quote was like, he brought harm to me and my family. I mean, that cuts deep, man.
Yeah, it's a confidence blow, like he said. She lost this morning 6-1, 6-2 in under an hour.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that just derails a player's career. Not a career, but it could, but at least derails him for a little bit. I mean, Wim Fissette had the kindest things to say about her. She's an incredible athlete. She's an incredible worker. We just need to clean up her game. And it looks like, especially in tennis, when you're only winning 53% of the points to be a dominant player, if you lose that little bit of confidence, it's gone. I feel for Qinwen Zheng in this scenario, and I get why Wim left. But if it's me, if I'm the coach, if I'm Wim Fissette, I've signed up to at least do a year with Qinwen Zheng, because I was jobless and she took the chance on me to fix her game. So
yeah, or to like at least get through like the Asian swing.
Yeah,
you essentially just like, you just pulled the wool over her eyes in her home country. Like, you left her out to dry. Like, that's brutal. But he had to have known this is coming. The way he went about it is awful. But I don't blame him for going. You know, it's Osaka. She won a couple slams. I mean, every time that Zheng and Osaka are going to end up playing each other, that's going to be must-watch TV.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine like third round Aussie Open?
Yep, China versus Japan, the matchup.
There's no history between those countries at all.
That's let's not make this a history podcast. Oh my God, no, that's going to be, yeah. And in that case, I will be rooting for Qinwen Zheng harder than maybe most of the players in the world, because I would want her to kick the snot out of Osaka. And I feel bad for Osaka a little bit, who's just trying to come back and play tennis. Yeah, everywhere she goes, it just feels like there's some press on Naomi Osaka.
Osaka's going to be hard pressed anyway. Like,
yeah,
I mean, Swiatek, Sabalenka, and Rybakina, and then even like 4 through 7. Like, it's not going to be a cakewalk to get back on top ranking. Like, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, no, it's going to, well, she's hopefully got the right coach for it. That's the only way you can think about it. So, well, back onto the ATP. In a weird way, what has been going on for most of this week is the talk of balls and tennis balls. And this all started with friend of the podcast, Zizou Bergs, who's been struggling with wrist injuries and pretty much lit into a social media post talking about how the ATP Tour is the reason why they're having wrist injuries, because they're changing balls so frequently. And players like Stan Wawrinka, Taylor Fritz, Carlos Alcaraz, Medvedev have all weighed in on this. And it does seem like for some reason, tennis balls are becoming a bit of an issue on the ATP Tour and maybe causing some injuries.
I think it has been interesting. I mean, you're seeing, Wawrinka reposted what Zizou said. Fritz has come out and blasted and said he's never had any sort of injury pretty much ever outside of, I guess, whatever he did to his ankle or foot in Indian Wells the other year. And now he's dealing with, wrist and shoulder, and and on the women's side as well, we're seeing it because they're starting to pilot having the women use the heavier ball. And you're starting to see that effect. And a lot of people are complaining about it, wearing extra taping on their shoulders. You can visibly see the wear and tear. And so I think it is a topic that is going to have to be discussed and hopefully resolved at some point, because the players are the ones going week to week and playing these events and matches. And you would think that their opinions and thoughts and the product that is them would want to be held at a very high standard, and you want to keep them healthy. I mean, what happens if Alcaraz is out for 6 months because he does something to his shoulder because of something like this? Like, how stupid can you be?
Yeah, it's time to get your tinfoil hats on, everybody, because I have a conspiracy theory of what's going on here. One, Daniil Medvedev said these balls are like playing with grapefruits. They're getting big, fluffy, and they're slowing down a lot. It's getting really hard to hit through the court. And we're seeing that with rallies going up and up and up, which has been the case of the ATP Tour for a number of years. How do we make rallies longer? And what caught my eye when reading this was when I started researching the types of balls that they were complaining about and at what events. So they were complaining about the Australian Open balls. They were complaining about the Wimbledon balls, last year's French Open balls, and now at Beijing, which is the head ATP Tour ball. So you have 4 different types of tennis balls being complained about. As somebody who's been around tennis enough and hit enough tennis balls, the different types of tennis balls in my life, the Australian Open ball is Dunlop's ball. Dunlop is big complaint. Fred, you can back me up on this. What's the big complaint about a Dunlop ball years to year? It's the opposite of it being fuzzy.
Yeah, it's almost like it becomes a pebble and kind of zips around.
It's like a bald-headed screaming person going through the court. Like, it is very, very, very not fun and not fuzzy. And then I was like, hold on a second. So Dunlop's got a fuzzy ball. The ATP Tour ball from Head, which never really used to be that fuzzy, is now fluffing up and getting really fuzzy. And the Wimbledon ball used to be hard as kind of a rock. That was kind of its thing. And now they're all getting slow. I think the ATP Tour is dictating somewhat to these companies and saying, you need to slow down the ball. So fluff it up so that we can get more rallies, so that we have more viewers, because it's more fun to watch play tennis. And I think by the players complaining about it, I think they're catching on, and they're trying to get control back of the way the game's being played, because it's not good for them to be hitting the ball for this long, for this amount of time in the year.
It's either the change has been so drastic, like very, very recently, like this year, it's so noticeable, or we just have players with strong personalities and want to get it out there and make a quick change, because this is the first time I've really heard about it, like as like a widespread thing talked about.
It's because there's the injuries to back it up. They complained about the Wimbledon balls at the French Open, but nobody was hurt. But now you're seeing players get hurt. Stefanos Tsitsipas, I did not mention him. He's been having injuries that he's never had before and has tried changing strings and changing rackets. Maybe there's something to be said about the fact that if you make the ball really slow and make it really heavy, it does weigh on a player. And I think that's kind of what's going on a little bit right here. I think there's other factors, But I do think that with my tinfoil hat on here, and a little conspiracy theory, we never went to the moon, and apparently the ATP is controlling tennis balls.
Yeah, I think to your point, Cole, I feel like, yeah, we're hearing a lot more about it right now. I think, yeah, because of the injuries, but I feel like for years I've kind of been hearing it just when I'd be at the City Open or as a hitting partner, and I would even ask because I'd see, yeah, a Penn ATP Tour ball, and I'm like, ah, what's this? And they're like, they use it at a handful of tournaments. I'm like, a handful? This isn't what they use on the whole tour? They're like, well, no, like at this tournament they use this, and at this tournament they use this. And I forget who I was talking to, but they were essentially saying, I don't know, it's the difference isn't that big, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay. And you don't think much of it. And then I go play junior tournaments and college events and things like that. And you're playing with some different balls and you don't really notice a ton. But now I would say in the last 2 years, and I really thought maybe it was kind of a COVID quality control issue, but I'm seeing balls from all companies fluffing up that just never used to fluff up. I would teach with Wilson US Open balls. I would teach with Dunlop Grand Prix balls. I would teach with some of these new Technofiber balls, and they're all just slowing down just a little bit more. And so I might be putting on a tinfoil hat as well here, Keith, because I think something's going on, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because now players are really making a stance for it. And I hope that this can, I don't know, I don't know, I don't want to say unionize, but like maybe.
We're getting to that point a little bit. And as somebody who plays recreation in USTA, where you provide your own balls, you get different level balls. I had a guy one time bring, oh God, what was it? It was a Penn
The TI
titanium ball. It was like playing with a golf ball. It was the worst. It was the worst tennis ball I've ever played in my life. And that makes a difference. It's just shocking to hear that on the ATP tour, we're hearing about these balls that are just having subtle changes make that much of a difference to these players. And the women used to play with a totally different ball until they complained about it. Iga Swiatek complained about it last year. And then they switched to now they're all playing with the same ball, at least at the US Open, I think for most of the year as well. And you had players like Ons Jabeur going like, yeah, my shoulder's killing me. That ball weighs a ton. Like I was like, I'm not used to this. So yeah, it's just odd. It is just a little strange. And like, we complain at a recreational level about somebody bringing a crap ball, but these players are provided them, and the ATP tour should be able to have a foundation for like, here, this is a good tennis ball. Just feels like an easy fix.
Yeah, it's hurting the product, right? You want the best players to play every week, and if they're not healthy, then I feel like the trade-off is a lot worse. Get some different balls in. Maybe you'd have higher ranked players play your event, and maybe they wouldn't be hurt for and it trickles down, right? Say you're hurt, you're not just hurt for 1 week. Could be like a whole swing.
And it's going to be the reason why it's the tougher fix too, is that if you pick one company to be this official ATP ball, you've just screwed every other company out of any marketing ability. And because there's no governing body, there's the ATP, there's Wimbledon, there's the US Open, there's the French Open, they can make their own deals. And that's what's going to happen. I think Dunlop is the unofficial official ball because they do the most events. They have like 4 Masters 1000s and like 7 of the 500s and like 15 of the 250s. But as we saw leading up to the US Open, Fred and I were talking about this before the podcast, they used Dunlop, Head, and Wilson in 3 out of the 4 weeks. So the players are playing with 3 totally different brand of balls.
The US Open series, they weren't using the US Open ball. Make it make sense.
Cole, are you going to put on a tinfoil hat with us? Because I'm honestly just backing up to the fact that I think the ATP is just trying to control as much money as humanly possible and control the fluffiness of this ball and make it slow, and it's hurting its players.
I mean, I'll put it on, but I'm going to put it on backwards as sort of like a half effort. Yeah, I think the balls are definitely fluffing up a little bit, and we want longer rallies. But I also think a lot of that has to do with, play style. We're not seeing a lot of serve and volleying anymore, and just like at Wimbledon, we just want to back it up and rally. So it's surface and it's ball. That's what I think. I think the services are slower all around, and I think the balls are slower too.
I'm curious to see how much this gripe goes on because I want to see if this is going to continue or if it stops and comes back. But I think this is the ATP Tour players trying to control a little bit of what's going on in their own life, considering they're not unionized, as Fred said, and they really don't have a control. They're 1099 employees, so that hurts. And that's where you get into trouble here. And that's where you're going to maybe get some guys that are injured or going to hold out. I mean, arguably so. If you're getting injured, you should be pissed at an entity that is not helping you out at all.
Yep. It's at the end of the day, it seems like from the ATP side, it's all a money thing. And like you said, Keith, these other companies would be screwed if they decided to make the Dunlop ATP ball at every event, and they made a clay court version, and then they had the hard court balls, and that was it. Yeah. But because of the way tennis is run and we don't have that one entity, I don't think we're going to get there. And so I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out and if and when someone will try and speak on this from one of those top entities.
What you don't have right now is players coming out in the media and naming companies by name and slandering them. Like you don't see that. It's more like the balls this week were, hard to deal with. But like if somebody starts like coming out and saying, like if Roger Federer came out and said like Dunlop balls this week were shit, like that would have some weight, I think. Like if Djokovic were to say something like that, like could be tough.
Well, I think the problem is that they can't do that is because half of them are sponsored by a different ball. Like Federer would obviously like the Wilson ball, and Alexei Popper would obviously like the Dunlop ball. So then it's just a pissing contest of who has the most sponsored players.
Yeah, Federer versus Popperin.
Yeah, I think Federer wins that a little bit.
I mean, if you're getting injured based off of it, like, I don't know.
Well, Fred hit some nail on the head here. And also I want everybody real quickly though. I want everybody to, if you get the chance, send us a message, reach out to us. What's your like best tennis ball experience? I kind of want to see, because I've had some stories and I've seen some matches where you just get some whacked out people with like refusing to play with a certain ball and brought their own or wouldn't play districts with it. So if you have one, please send one our way.
Fred, what's your favorite ball?
Anything but a pen.
I'd agree with that.
I prefer the Babolat Gold because it fluffs
up.
I
hate that ball.
It fluffs up after 2 shots.
Yeah, it does. The thing is slower than molasses in January.
No, honestly, the Technofiber balls have been pretty good. I've been hitting with those lately.
Yeah, not bad. Dunlop Grand Prix. I used to be a Wilson US Open guy for years, but Fred actually turned me on to the Grand Prix. That's been my favorite ball.
Yep. No, I'm there. I think either the Grand Prix or in the last like 6 months, I've been hitting with these Yonex balls.
I've never hit with one.
And they are so solid. So we'll see. I'm going to keep kind of testing them just because I haven't hit at true length with them at a high level. And so I want to see how they really last on a hard court, banging it around with somebody that can really hit the ball.
Yeah, not me right now. But speaking of money problems, we touched on a Coach Keith video, and I think we may have touched on in a prior episode about Baseline, which was the ATP's version of really paying its players and trying to help its players out that are inside the top 250. And we said there needs to be more done. And I have to give a shout out here to friend of the podcast and just general friend, Sean Goodrich, who sent me the list of ATP players' money earnings this year and how many players simply do not qualify for the ATP's money incentive that they're giving out. And again, it just feels like the ATP has just come up woefully short in trying to help its players out. They're hurting them with tennis balls now. And now it feels like they're hurting them with the money end too, when they are trying to help. It's wild.
We were singing their praises last week. It's a start. It's a good first step. Now we're out here breaking wrists and promising false money to people. God, this is bad. It's a bad week.
I mean, just a quick look at it. Like guys like like hypothetically, guys like Dennis Novak, who's 194 in the world, he's earned $179,000 in prize money this year. And before everybody jumps in arm is like, how can you not make a living on $179,000? Just think of the expenses for a guy who's traveling the world. He's spending at least $50,000 a year travel. If he has a coach, that's $50,000 a year. So that's $100,000. Stringing alone, Fred, what did you say? You spoke to somebody that they do stringing at?
Well, yeah, like Liam Brody made a post on Instagram, and it was, I mean, yeah, right around 10 grand a year on just stringing.
So if you have a full-time coach and to be honest, if you're paying your coach $50,000 a year, he's not the top end coach. He or she is not the top end coach.
He's no Wim Facet.
Yeah, he's no Wim Facet. That dude getting more than 50,000.
He's Cole Wernecki.
And if you're paying, so you got 50, 50, and 10, that's $110,000. So Dennis Novak, the rest of the year before he gets taxed twice, has to live off $75,000 and is one of the better players in the world. But then there are other players that are like 193 in the world that have made $15,000 this year. So it does help them out. But we're already showing that this incentive is not really enough to help out those players. It does not do enough, not even close to enough. And it doesn't qualify for what feels like 50 to 70% of the players within the top 250.
I want to see how this gets paid out. Like, is it incremental? Is it salary based? Like,
great point.
When's it going to start? Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see more than just like a publicity stunt. Like, let me just put a post out and say, we're doing something. Like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that at ATP. Like,
you could subsidize $75,000 there, Cole?
No, like I could put a post out and say that it's happening, but I need to see some facts. Like, I got dogs outside the top 300. Like, there's nothing to grasp onto right now. I need some absolutes.
And this is an important thing because, Fred, you actually just mentioned Liam Brody. He's 29 years old. He just broke into the top 100 today, I think, for the first time in his career. I think he's at a career high of 93. Like, that's an incredible an incredible achievement for that guy. And who knows how much quicker it could have happened if he had some bit of money to back him up that maybe could keep his dreams alive to travel to bigger tournaments. Right now, how the ATP works is this. Is it you pray to God if you're outside the top 80 in the world that you can qualify for an Australian Open, for a French Open, for Wimbledon, and you pray that you just get into the first round because that's your money right there. That's $50,000, $75,000 right there. But if you don't do that, good luck. You're fucked. That's it. You're out. I thought Dennis Novak, like a third of his money has come from, I think he made the first round at Wimbledon. That's it. That's where a third of his money came from.
Yeah. Guys like Dennis Novak got loans out at the local bank. Like, it's just not all right now. Got to figure it out.
Yep. I think, like you said earlier, it's a start, but I think they really need to do some digging here. And because look at the list you're bringing up, Keith, like we're barely looking at it and we're already finding that they're not able to cover a lot of these guys. And some guys are making hundreds of thousands that they were saying, oh yeah, we'll give you $75,000. It's like, well, that guy already made 210. So let's go find the guys that are making 10,000 and 20,000 and get them that extra chunk of change so that they don't have to just play random money tournaments to make some extra money or stay in Tunisia for 7 straight weeks to play the 15Ks. It's like maybe they can go play a challenger somewhere. Because there's guys that ranking-wise can get into certain tournaments, but they don't travel there because logistically it does not make sense. And that is who this program needs to try and help.
Yes, I think the easy solution off the bat is whoever doesn't qualify for this, the next player that – so if the 50th ranked player doesn't qualify, then the 251st ranked player qualifies and down the line. So if you have 70 guys in the top 250 that don't qualify, then that money just keeps getting divvied out to the next 75 players in the ranking at least, and at least gives them a chance. Because I'm looking at exactly 200 in the world. It's Tennis Sandgren right now. He's made $76,110. Guess what? He ain't getting a cent.
You don't qualify.
You don't qualify tennis. And tennis was in, like, at one point was at a pretty high ranking. Like he had a career high of I think 40 in the world, roughly right around there, and he doesn't qualify, and he's out. So it just feels weird. I think the amount of players that don't qualify for this should not exempt the players that do qualify for this, the players that are outside the 250 in the world. Because if they can get a hand in their career, who knows what can happen? Who knows what can happen to a guy like Omni Kumar if he got an extra $50,000 who was on this podcast, or Zizou Bergs, a guy that needed one big run to fund his career at the beginning of his career to really get his career going. Like, who knows what could happen to those types of players if you gave them the opportunity to travel and pay and do their expenses and train correctly.
100%.
In the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I got to say about that. Well, back onto the courts, we have Shanghai coming up. That's starting in a couple days. ATP 1000. I know getting the bump pick, Alexei Popyrin is there. Yuri Lehechka was just in Astana, I believe. Is Yuri Lehechka making the trip to Shanghai? He should.
Yeah, he's a 27 seed. He's got a first round bye awaiting Peke, Diego Schwartzman, or Luca Van Asche. The battle of 5', 7.5 and below.
Lehechka's not playing the Asian games this year.
No, he's from Czech Republic.
No, just make sure. Didn't qualify.
Didn't qualify for the Asian games, shockingly, in Central Europe. Yeah, it should be a good tournament. There's been great finals here. Cole's a big fan of great finals or great comebacks. Federer coming back against Zverev when he was down like 7 match points. Federer smoking Djokovic just a lot of Federer highlights. It feels like a little bit sometimes at Shanghai, but that should be a fun tournament. If you can watch it, please do, because it's nice to have 1000s back on that really feel like they get the blood going, get tennis mattering again.
Who are we picking?
That's hard, man. It's so hard to choose a winner. Look, this is a time of year where you got to look at the race to Turin. You got 3 guys that have already qualified, so I'm not going to pick any of those 3 guys to win this tournament. This is where guys that are like 4 through 10 got to start like locking it in and start playing well. So I'm looking at like 8, 9, and 10. Who's that? Freaking Rude at 10, and then 2 other guys. Keith, you got it in front of you?
I'm looking it up right now there, Coley boy.
Yep, Holger Rune at 8, Fritz at 9, Casper Ruud at 10, D Minor at 11, TP at 12.
I'm not taking Rude. I'll take Fritz.
Even after his wrist complaints?
I'll take Fritz as I double check that he's even in the draw.
with his wrist injuries from these balls. Yeah, he's in the draw there.
Him and Yuri are looking to set up around a 32 matchup.
Yeah. This is a tough one. Who to pick in this? I may take a Fred pick here. Go Hubert Hurkacz to make a bit of a run here at this tournament. Look at Cole. Cole's eyes rolled so hard he saw the back of his head, baby.
Dude. I'm not picking that. After Miami, 2007, whenever he won that last Masters title. Dude, Hurkacz is he needs to start transitioning to the doubles tour.
16th ranked
I'm
player
taking Fritz. You're taking Hurkacz. Wow. Okay. Go ahead, Fred. Who you taking? Rios?
It's demon o'clock. It's time
Fred,
for Alex.
This tournament
Alex
is in China. It's not in Mexico.
Doesn't matter. He's in Oceania, near Oceania. He's gonna take the title. He's gonna push his way past Fritz, Casper Ruud, Holger Rune, and find his way into the ATP Finals in Turin. Book it.
Fair. Book it.
Yep.
Wow. In the words of Keith of an earlier podcast, check your receipts, yo.
Women's side, I'm going to take Sabalenka just because I feel like she's got some hunger in her after that Coco golf
You're
loss.
talking about in Beijing right now for the WTA 1000?
Ew.
That is currently going on.
We can cut that out.
I will take Sabalenka. You don't have to cut it out.
No, let's go. Make your picks. They're only in the second. Like everyone's only played one match. Sabalenka had to play Kenin first round, beat
It's
her
the
1-2.
midweeks. The midweeks are throwing me off. I will take
Midweek
Sabalenka.
tournaments.
She's gonna bomb serve all her way through the tournament, and hopefully she plays golf in the final. That would be cool to see.
As always, I'll just pick Iga. Just move on.
He literally every single week.
Has it been wrong that much? She does have the most wins on tour.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Rabikinia.
Big three. Big three.
3 for 3.
Yeah, you're like upset at me for like picking Tiger Woods to win a golf tournament. Like no shit. Like she keeps winning. She keeps winning. All right. Well, to the detriment of everybody on this podcast, there is no Cole's concern list because Cole's not concerned about anything.
You'll have one midweek, Shanghai, Beijing. Don't you worry.
You have to wait for a Cole's concern list. And as always, swing a big stick.